Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you might be joining from. I am HR Funk, and welcome to HR's Firing Line. This is a special episode of my Firing Line today, where we're going to be reviewing some of the recent announcements from this past week's SHOT Show. And I have a special guest that's going to be with me, Dan the Wolfman, everyone's favorite lycanthrope. I can't say it. lycanthrope, there we go, is going to be with us. And we're going to be discussing back and forth some of the things that you've seen coming out in the videos. Now, I was not at SHOT Show, and I don't believe Dan was there either, but we've been trying to watch the coverage throughout the week and get an idea of some of the new products that were announced. And hopefully we're going to be able to give you some good information back and forth. And I can see we've already got some people. Some of you are waiting early. We've got KD Cowboy was here. I think the first one that clicked in. Jeff Tim, thanks for joining, Jeff. We've got Josh Twyman down here. Art Grote, thanks for joining, Art. And I don't know, that's everybody I see so far, but hopefully we'll have some more people join us. For anyone that's not familiar with Dan, before I bring him into the chat here, Dan is a lifelong martial artist, former MMA competitor. He has a long and distinguished pedigree as far as martial arts is concerned, and also a long list of video productions dealing with martial arts training, and one thing and another. He also has, in recent years, gotten more and more into firearms training and producing videos based on firearms training. So with no further ado, I am going to click over here on the window and we'll bring Dan into the discussion. And there he is right there. How are you doing, Dan?
All right. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Thank you, Howard, for bringing me on in a nice way. I appreciate you having me. And it was pretty exciting SHOT Show news. That's what we'll be discussing. And guys, get there in the comments and let us know if there's stuff that really caught your eye. We'll be discussing some stuff that definitely caught our eye. And yeah, guys, if you're not familiar with my channel, I definitely very long time, lifelong martial artist, travel the world, train with the best fighters. My fourth black belt was in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So if it's Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, combatives related, please check my playlist. I'm not putting a lot out nowadays. It's all firearms related for the most part, but check my playlist. You'll find a lot. I also have the highest rated self-defense instructional on the world's biggest site, BJJ Fanatics. It's called Combatives and Street Jiu-Jitsu. I said, no, guys, bring me in. I want to film 2 days worth. I busted my butt. It's 4.5 hours long. It's not one of these ones you pay and see just rewinds of the same 5 things for 1 hour. So it's a good value. And if you carry a deadly force tool, you really, even if you're older, you should really have some self-defense training. Listen to some of my real world experiences and some defensive displays I even get into and stories I share and things like that, because you want to have some force options and retention. Being able to fight is pretty important. Obviously, it gets harder as we age. That's another reason why I'm more and more into the firearms content. Besides, I love it and all of that. I will go briefly into that before we get into the SHOT Show stuff. So I've been covering firearms for a little while. I've been carrying for a while. I also work armed security. So I got that background. I kind of unofficially went through a SWAT school, did all the firearms training at a SWAT school. And I've also done a week-long training at another thing where 900 rounds, I got 100%, all basically upper thoracic type A-zone hits with a Block 17 Gen 5, even though I'm not a Block fan. And I can shoot them good, but I prefer other things. And so get there in the comments and hate me right now if you want. But yeah, so I've got a pretty good background. I'm getting heavy in the revolvers lately, though.
Anything exciting coming up on your channel here in the near future, Dan?
Yeah, a lot of revolver content, revolver accessory content. That's one thing I'm going to be focusing on in 2024, just like SHOT Show, which I kind of been guessing at. Sorry about the dogs you hear in the background. And also going to be covering budget 9mm options like micro / macro / a new kind of in between size, I would say, and I don't know what to call them, a subcompact slides with a smaller width frame, sort of like your Masada Slim. So that's budget options, at least 2, hopefully 3. I'm talking to someone to send stuff. So a lot of revolver content, revolver accessory content. Look forward to that. And probably in the 9mm micro / macro size, and I even like the in-between sizes. So we're going from, 3-inch barrel. I kind of like more that 3.2, 3.4 inch and the 3.7 inch. I kind of like that in-between range and whatever we're calling these nowadays. So, and ballistics tests, I got to plug that too. So Federal Ammunition has come on board to help me out. And I filmed 5 ballistics tests so far. First one's live already. 38 Hydroshock Deep versus Paul Harrell UMC. Thank you, Paul Harrell, for everything you've ever done. And 9mm from a micro coming up. And I've done a bunch, like 7 different 357 Magnum loads. And I do, instead of just 4-layer denim there, I do 4-layer denim plus 2-layer t-shirt behind it, because people that carry 357 or 10 are also worried about animal defense. I don't have to worry about that in the South so much.
I don't know. It
But
didn't sound like that a minute ago with those dogs.
yeah. So it's some good stuff, point of impact accuracy stuff. So hopefully you guys will check it out and subscribe and all of that. Thank you.
All right. And yeah, I was listening to those dogs a minute ago, and it was reminding me of that scene from the Wolfman where they were like chasing him with the dogs. And I thought maybe they were like after you, Dan. And now that I don't hear them anymore, I'm a little worried.
One of them attacks when you come to the door for sure. And anytime they hear plastic crinkle, they want food bad.
Moving on, let's jump into this, the various things that we saw coming out of the SHOT Show. And I think the first thing that I saw announced probably was before the show even started, and that was the new lever action from Smith & Wesson, their model 1854. And when I saw that thing come out, and I got an email, I think it was Sunday or Monday, announcing that had been released and developed by Smith & Wesson. And that one caught me off guard. I really did not see that coming. It looks like the base model is going to have a synthetic stock. And I'm not sure if it's stainless steel or if it's a stainless steel lookalike Cerakote over carbon steel, but it has a silver finish to the metal. The action looks very reminiscent of a Marlin 336, or at least as best I can tell by looking at it. It does have the Marlin style crossbolt safety. And the synthetic version is probably very practical from a modern hunting standpoint. Obviously, someone doesn't have to worry about rain or snow or anything causing any kind of problems with wood. But I got to tell you, as a lever action aficionado, I wish they would have had a wood stocked version. And I guess technically they do, but it's a limited edition with very, very ornate wood on it. And it's MSRP'd at something like $3,500, $3,700, something like that.
Whoa.
And I almost fell out of my chair when I saw that. So I'm hoping maybe there is a wood stocked version coming down the line. The synthetic stock version has an MSRP up around $1,200, which is, I think, a bit steep. I'm not sure what the synthetic stainless Henrys are going for these days. Probably in that neighborhood. And I guess that's one of the things too. And I've talked about this a lot lately with American manufacturers and the prices, for a lot of the products just going up and up and up. And what we see from the overseas competition is pretty good quality for quite a bit lower prices. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Smith & Wesson. I know right now it's coming out in 44 Magnum. I saw a 410 shotgun version, and it's rumored that it's going to be in some other cartridges as well. 357 Magnum, I heard. I'm not sure beyond that, but thoughts on that new lever action?
It looks good. I saw Honest Outlaw's review on it. So, for his snow that he was evaluating in during the weather last few weeks, it makes sense, right? Obviously, I'm not in a 44 mag because I'm not a reloader and I'm cheap and I can't afford it. That doesn't mean someday I won't be there, but I'm more excited if you get to a 357 street price, about $925, with some, even outsourced Turkish walnut or Brazilian walnut if you got to. Yeah, give me blued and a wood stock and 357 for under $950, and then you have my attention a lot more. 44 mag. And honestly, like small revolvers and 44 special, 3-inch barrel, like some of the old Rossies and stuff, pretty freaking awesome if you could afford 44 special and find it, and all you can get is critical defense, and it's like $50 a box at the stores around me. So I'm like, nah, I can find some buys out there on the like revolver side, but I can't afford the ammo. So it doesn't really do it for me yet, but I'm sure 357 is coming down the line. And yeah, I think they'll find a little more success with that. So I'm sure they have that planned. I hope. And I hope they plan it for, a little bit in the more affordable realm for me.
It's funny that you mentioned 44 Special too. I was talking to ERJG 1954 earlier this morning, and my video that went live at 8 o'clock this morning was on my 357 Magnum revolver, and we were talking about the versatility of the 357 cartridge. And I said, for versatility, I don't know if my vote would go for the 357 Magnum or the 44 Special. I think it would depend on whether or not someone was a hand loader. As a hand loader, the 44 Special has a wide spectrum of power ranges that it can be loaded to, whereas the 357 Magnum basically gets you that same range of versatility from factory loads. You can go all the way down to really light loaded 38 Specials and all the way up to the most nuclear powered 357 Magnum that you can stuff into the chamber. But I'm a big fan of both of those cartridges. I don't know. It probably, as far as ultimate versatility, it would come down as a tie in my mind. But again, so much of it depends on whether or not somebody is a hand loader. But
yeah, and I'm not yet. So 357 is about as expensive as I go. I'm not even in a 10 millimeter yet, just because a 40 can do almost what I need, because I'm not in the Northwest, so I don't have to worry about like animal defense like a lot of the 10 millimeter guys do. So 357 kind of handles my needs right now. Though as a cartridge, I love 10 mil, and I think 44 Special, like you said, Gun Sam's done from pud loadeds to hot. You could do like, getting a buffalo born double tap and Underwood and stuff. You can go pretty wild, even a 44 Special. And I like these little like 5-shot snubbies, and there was some GP 100 like Paul Harrowhead. Like, it's too bad. And maybe that will segue us later into talking about the 32s. But before we get off lever actions, I want to mention the Henry lever actions as well. So they've got at least a couple different ones coming out, different mechanical ways of the levers. It's really pretty interesting to make them, instead of you having a hard ka-chunk, especially if it was cold outside, pretty easy to manipulate and get a full load on it. A short throw for a long bolt travel. But there was one particular they have called the Action Supreme, and it takes magazines that we really like from a company like PSA I'm not really familiar with, and it comes with one of those nice little 10 rounders that is still at least allowed in all 50. Oh, I don't know. Hawaii keeps stuffing around, but
I'm sorry,
be
Dan,
allowed in all 50 states.
did you say what it's
did you say what it's chambered for? Put them in there too.
I'm sorry. Did you say what it's chambered for?
5.56, 223.
Okay.
They're going to do different ones, or 300. So they're going both with threaded barrels, both taking various available magazines, 5.56 18-inch with a thread, or 300 blackout 16-inch with a threaded barrel. But besides the easier lever action, they have like two really innovative ways. It's all internal. There's no external hammer. So if you needed or just enjoy that whole tactical lever thing, or levers for actually being outdoorsy and hunty and that kind of thing, being all internal means less dirt, snow, debris. If you trip, fall, whatever, the action's going to be cleaner. I think it's pretty interesting. Unfortunately, it looks like that too is going to be pretty dang pricey. But for something that takes those mags and doesn't look bad or evil, that kind of has a unique niche that interests me. Like, I think levers maybe do have a place still, and I think that interests me with that kind of compatibility. We've seen bolt gun from Ruger that does, but a lever is even faster and easier. So I don't know if you got any thoughts on bolter levers that maybe take really nice available stuff you can get.
Well, one of the big things that I think of with lever action rifles is in some of the places where the AR platform is frowned upon for one reason or another, or it's neutered for one reason or another, or what have you, the lever action rifles probably help with that situation because it gives another option that's going to be absolutely effective and doesn't have whatever stigma might be attached to the black rifles. So there's that comes around. Beyond that, the idea of a 556 chambered lever action that runs a detachable box magazine. That's interesting. I think we've seen some attempts in the last few years to sort of come out with a modern lever action. Some of them are bordering on ridiculous. Others are a little bit more practical. But I don't know. I guess I want to wait until I see one of those and maybe have a chance to learn a little bit more about it before I try to come up with an opinion one way or the other.
Yeah. And I forgot, I'm not in the can life. I don't need to do all that. But if you were, I guess the 300 black is interesting. If you're not someone that's in the cans or ever wanting to go through all of that, I don't know if you got any thoughts on 300 blackout. To me, I looked at the ballistics and it really drops. Fight me, but it really drops far off past 100 yards as far as bullet drop and retained muzzle energy and stuff. So I'm like, to me, I decided, like, I thought about getting into it just because a couple months ago with world events, we saw certain things happen with prices. So I'm like, well, maybe it would be a good platform to possibly have. But ballistically, I think past 100 yards. And if you're not doing suppressed, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense compared to 5.56, 7.62 by 39 that retain
Yeah,
better to like 300 yards with less drop.
and I've always looked at the blackout as kind of a niche cartridge. I mean, it's got a very specific performance envelope, I guess, or performance window. And if you need that, particularly for running a suppressed firearm or what have you, then that might be a good option. But for general purpose shooting, I think there are cartridges you can get cheaper that are going to be, as effective as you want, or maybe even more effective than the 300 blackout. But moving on, one of the other things that I saw coming out from Smith & Wesson, and I think you saw this one too, Dan, is their new Ultimate Carry series that's going to be coming through Lipsies, which for anyone that didn't see it, is basically an updated J-frame. It's an updated 442 and an updated 642. They've added a sight to the back, more of a sight, I guess, than the typical groove through the top strap. And it's going to be chambered in a 5-shot 38 special. And then they're also going to have it as a 6-shot 32 H&R Magnum, which blows my mind. I think in the last live stream, if any of you saw it, I was talking about years ago, they offered a 32 H&R Magnum J-frame, and I think it was a Centennial. And I said that kind of intrigued me at the time because I thought that I could have an extra shot in the J-frame platform with the 6-shot H&R Magnum and still have reasonable effectiveness. But that cartridge and the revolver sort of faded away. And in the live stream the last time around, I said I was glad that I didn't get one because I probably wouldn't be able to find ammunition for it these days. Lo and behold,
but it'd be worth $1,500 though. Apparently, those are going for a lot of money right now.
Yeah. Lo and behold, a week later, they came out with a new J-frame chambered for the 32 H&R Magnum as well as the 38 Special. But thoughts on that new Ultimate Carry revolver, Dan?
I think they put a lot of thought into it. I've been dropping them comments. It seems like they're ignoring me. As far as Lipsies and Smith & Wesson and stuff, I don't know. It'd be great if they give me that new shooter position that just reopened that I've been trying to get. But I think it's a really nice, well thought out package. Let's start with the sights you mentioned. So it's a XS small dot on the front. They made a kind of special colored green ring around it. I love XS sights. They're a Texas company. They're awesome to talk to. I talked to a girl there. She's great. They support me. They support the channel. I don't get any money from it, guys, but you can get a discount code if you use my nickname, right? So do that. It's a 140 front with a 160 U-notch rear. I do like U-notch rear, especially for something that's like a pocket gun that is going to give probably really fast target acquisition as you're pulling it out of a pocket and kind of coming up into your sight line. Um, the got VZ grips, and they really worked on rounding it and making it a higher grip, which is going to help with trigger pull. But apparently, and I wish they spoke more to this, they did some trigger regeometry on it. So apparently, this is a J frame that's going to have a much better trigger. The guys that helped out, DB and others, I wish they would speak to it. But apparently it's really nice, right? J frames have often been just too small for my hands. So is a P365 in the top of the top strap for that matter. So I need thicker to fill my hand and also for trigger reach purposes. Like J frames are great if you got smaller hands. But having good sights, number one, is interesting. And then 32 is awfully interesting. And, maybe some guys in the comments can drop some knowledge. I'm interested in 32. I've done a lot of research this last week. I'm looking at Gun Sam videos and stuff. 32, I think, has its purpose for sure.
I'll tell you, when I very first saw that, and I'm trying to remember now, I think I saw the Lipsy's video where they unveiled it, and I've seen one or two since then. At very first blush, seeing the Ultimate Carry revolvers, I was underwhelmed, I guess. I thought it felt to me like they were trying to make the J frame do something that a J frame really was never meant to do. It's not a target revolver or anything. It's for up close personal defense. And I've got to say, probably part of my opinion is skewed by the fact that I've got a 342 titanium cylinder model that I've had for 25 years. And it is such a nice revolver. That's one that I think they should have never discontinued. It's 38 special only. It was before they started to chamber the titanium frame guns or the titanium cylinder J frames for 357 Magnum. And 357 Magnum in a J frame is a little silly. I mean, you might get a little extra velocity, but there's not going to be the barrel length to really get to take advantage of the 357 cartridge. So for the trade-off in terms of controllability and recoil, I just don't think it was worth it to bump those up to a 357. So now they come out, with this new 442, 342, put sights on it and this and that. And I'm like, But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, maybe I'm being too hard. Maybe I'm being too judgmental here. I probably need to hold off on forming any opinion until I actually see one of these things, get a chance to try it. I want to see if I really think they did some improvement to the action, or if they're just telling people they did an improvement to the action and hoping they don't notice that it's still the same. But I guess my feeling on that at this point is the jury's out. I'm going to hold off, coming up with an opinion on that until I really get a chance to try one. And the fact that they did bring it out in 32 H&R Magnum, and apparently they have partnered with an ammunition company out there who's going to be providing ammunition. Now we'll see how well that goes. We know the 30 Super Carry was all the rage a couple of years ago at the SHOT Show, and I assume somebody is still making that ammunition, but I don't see it all that often. There are still firearms being produced in that chambering, at least for the moment, but we'll have to kind of see where that goes as time goes forward. But that's kind of where I was with the whole Ultimate Carry revolver. I guess at this point, I'm just going to say the jury's out.
Yeah, though to counterpoint, it's like you never know what instance you're going to be in. So it should be nice if all you could carry or do carry or around the house or work or whatever is a tiny little snub. It's sure nice to have real sights that hit point of aim, point of impact out to 15 yards is what they did. And they were hitting pretty good at 25.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of 38, look at my first ballistics video, guys. I'd really appreciate some comments there on the HydroShock Deep. amazing round that only gets better with longer barrel length. And in the pin comment, you can look at all the other testing data from all the other YouTubers out there, the Chrono data and all kinds of different revolvers. But the real organic gel data I got from Federal from both J frame, like 1 point whatever 87 whatever a J frame is, and a 4-inch. So it only gets better. As far as 32, I've definitely warmed up to the idea because there's new shooters, there's elderly, there's disabled. I have lupus. Gun Sam has autoimmune disease as well. We're even more likely than other people to be affected by Father Time as, another 5-10 years maybe go by. I mean, and we can still
5 or 10 years. I'm hoping to make it to supper time.
So I think 32 has a purpose. And Gun Sam tested the 95 grain Federal loading, goes really deep. I haven't found any testing yet on the 85 grain Federal 32 H&R Magnum loading, but I'm assuming like Federal knows what they're doing, guys. And that's what it was regulated to. In two different things they put out, it kind of said different things, but it seems like that was actually regulated 85 grain Federal loading. And the 95 is also just going to go deep and not get expansion. The 85, I don't know if there's any expansion. Maybe after you hit a breastbone or a rib, you might, right? So that's a bonus, but you got to make sure you get the decent penetration, but very, very low recoil. So for those people I mentioned, having very low recoil, and at least in the J-frame platform, going from 5 to 6, 20% more is kind of a big deal. I think it makes a lot of sense. And then they have a company they kind of partnered with on the 100 grain full wad cutters. So even less recoil and, really good deep penetration. Unfortunately, I looked at the company. They're sold out of that, and it's like $1 a round. It's pretty expensive. So there is an expense cost. And I've been debating all week if I want to grab a Taurus 327 so I can get in the 32 game and have that as an option as I get older. So ballistically, I think that's really interesting. So if you don't mind, let's segue to the Taurus is doing a Toro model, meaning optics ready defender, a Toro defender meaning it's 3 inches. Unlike some of their other defenders, this actually does also come with a front night sight, Ameriglo night sight, which is awesome. Be better if it was XS, but whatever. So you got a front night sight, which I did put that on my Ross ERP 63, that Ameriglo night sight. Because the XS wasn't out yet. The next one, stay tuned to my channel. You'll see some cool stuff. But anyway, the 327, now that goes from 32, long pud loads with no recoil to get your wife or whatever in a shooting to 32 H&R Magnum with at least the right loads. And you do have to be a little selective. Some go definitely deep enough. Some meh. Like the cheap ammo out there. I've watched a lot of tests this week, but the 2 Federal loads, I'm sure, go past 12 inches in actual organic gel. So that's awesome. We're still very low recoil, or you can go friggin' hot with 327 Federal Magnum. I have the actual ballistics data I got from Chris Locke at Federal on the 327 HST, 104 grain, smoking hot. Does great from the little itty bitty snubby under 2-inch barrels, LCRs or J frames, if they were in J frames. It does awesome from even better from like 4-inch. So anywhere in that range, like from this 3-inch Taurus, is really awesome. Like so awesome. I kept looking last night. It wasn't available anywhere. And then late last night, the black frame, boom, it's available from like 12 different places. I didn't check today. I don't know if the stainless, which is what I would want, is available yet. The price is not that high. And so that's like totally a great option. It would fit in the holster that they sent me. Like it's already got, cross compatibility with holsters and whatnot. 327. I don't know if 30 carry is going to survive, but 327 should and always should have survived. It always should have been more popular than it has been. 327 is great from a long barrel, but it's optimized better than other cartridges from a short barrel. Like it gives better performance than 357 from a 2-inch or less barrel. As you were kind of talking about that earlier, like a 640 Pro is almost there when you go from 2.125 instead of 1.9. Like it does make a bit of a difference, but 327, this HST friggin' rocks from even a snubby. So it's heavy recoiling though. But then you got the 32 H&R Magnum, and like you're good if you're not expecting expansion.
And if I can roll the dial back just a little bit, you touched on another revolver, the Toro with the optics ready platform.
Mhm.
I thought, if nothing else, I've never been a huge Taurus fan, at least of their wheel guns. And at least I thought that was innovative. They're trying something a little bit different. They're seeing the trend moving toward handgun optics, and then coming out with a revolver that's specifically designed to accept that and accommodate those type of sights. So I thought that was a good thing on their part.
Yeah, and I don't know, because you don't have a co-witness on that, what I really want to carry with that. But if any guys in the comments, as I mentioned to you earlier, HR, I'm kind of interested in at least trying it out for the channel. I need to just buy it. I'm cheap. It's like $75 online for a Ruger Ready Dot. So it's a big old 15 MOA. There's no battery. It's just kind of a light collector, like the old EOTech thing. But literally out to 20, 25 yards, you're still making torso-sized hits. So at like 15N, you're probably good. And I don't know. I would like to get a Toro and just throw that on and see, like, hey, at least a range toy for older eyes. I think that might be a really nice budget setup. I like the 327 because they're also, unlike the other Toros, they're also including, I think it's actually coming with the night sight on it. So you don't necessarily need it. And that's why I'm looking like, I got to decide, do I want to get in this game? Because you at least probably need to stock up on 200 rounds of various 32s if you're going to get in that game, because you don't know about availability and whatnot in the future.
So I think I've thrown out several things that I've seen so far. Is there anything you want to get to at this point in the show?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some autos and whatnot. We've covered levers. Oh, we got another revolver we need to cover. And then let's just briefly mention the other Taurus stuff coming out. 605 executive. So if you wanted an executive, but instead of 638s, you want 5 357s. It looks really nice, and it has a better front sight on it. It looks like it's a long gold bead or something like that. The Taurus Deputy is a Colt, like single action type clone. 45 Colt to 357. 4 3/4 or 5.5 inch barrels. I think I would like the shorter barrel 357, and it's under $500. So if those turn out to be well, and you can carry all 6 rounds because it has a transfer bar safety, or cheap way in a cowboy action shooting, maybe. I don't know if they do that around me, but that's pretty cool too. Before we talk some of the autos and ammo, and there's a site we should talk about. Let me mention the Diamondback SDR. Did you look at any of the Diamondback SDR?
I watched a little bit of the coverage on that. I guess I can say I'm aware of it. I would not say that I'm really well up to speed on it, but anything you want to throw out, by all means, go ahead.
So basically, guys, let's just call it like it is. It looks like a K6S. It's almost the same dimensions. It's not quite as long. K6S has actually a slightly longer barrel than what most people think, but it's pretty dang close. So, but it's lighter. It's 21 ounces instead of, I think, 26 on the 27 on the K6S. 357 Magnum 6-shot with a very thin 1.3 inch cylinder. My video kind of spoiled some things for them. I'm like, hey, it looks just like this grip from Hogue. It looks like it takes J-frame grips. They've confirmed that now. It takes J-frame grips. That's pretty awesome. It's going to fit in J-frame or Colt Detective leather. If it fits in like K6S, the trigger guard's a little different. I talked to A-Holster about it. He wasn't sure if it would fit in his pocket holsters or not. But it looks really cool. Spec-wise, I like it. It also has the quick change cylinder. I think they weren't even thinking about what I've kind of forced them into, and I hope Diamondback sends me one. I haven't heard back from them. I did look at their Sidekick. I did their Sidekick 22 LR 22 mag thing. I had one of the first videos out there on that, actually shooting it. But spec-wise, it looks very good. So it has a quick detached cylinder, just like all my Taurus 692. I love swapping out in a few seconds. I go from 38 357 and 9mm for cheaper training. They could do the same thing. I don't think they were necessarily even thinking that. But 9mm from a snub does not suck. I want to get a 9mm revolver other than my Taurus swappable multi-caliber, because 9mm is pretty awesome. Also, if this thing turned out to actually be reliable enough, long-term, durable enough, it's something law enforcement could get authorized as a backup or off-duty gun, is because you could carry your same authorized ammo in it, which would be awesome. So, if you're carrying a 124 plus P Gold Dot or HST or whatever as your carry issued ammo, I think law enforcement, it's very thin, and a lot of guys are going for inside vest carry or ankle carry or offhand, offside, weak side only, whatever you want to call it, front
The
pocket carry.
the inside vest carry is something that's been around for a long time. Just I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but that's I can remember that probably 20 years ago. Guys were looking at ways to do that.
Were you carrying a J frame or anything? What were you doing in your career?
I carried a J frame quite a while. Back in the 1990s, I carried a J frame and an ankle holster for a long time, and I finally decided that I didn't like my backup firearm being so far away from me that I had to get all the way down to my ankle to get it. So then I started going to an offside pocket carry so I could access it with my non-dominant hand, with the idea that if somebody was trying to remove my duty weapon from the holster, I could lock it down and access my backup with my not my non-shooting hand, but my non-dominant hand. So
Yeah,
I
and
carried
I
that
do
way
this.
for years and years.
Same thing on duty for most of the same reasons, as well as maybe you get shot in the arm or cut or stabbed or you're wrestling or whatever. There's a whole lot of reasons. I got an ask rebuttal video. I like to poke at John every now and then. Ask rebuttal video 9 reasons to carry a backup gun or pocket carry. That goes more into actual reasons people don't think of that you might want to, at least as law enforcement or armed security like I am. But this would be interesting because 9mm. Just to finish up on that, from a 2-inch barrel, which the SDR self defense revolver is, from 2-inch barrel, that is the exact same ballistics you're going to get from a 3.2-inch, like in my upcoming 9mm ballistics video. And the punch does really good, really fast from a short barrel, and it's softer lead. So if you got an LCR 9mm, I'm going to recommend that punch because it's even faster than the HST, and it's softer lead, and it's cheap and available. It's big box stores. So 2-inch revolvers don't suck. A 3-inch revolver 9mm gives you between a Glock 19 and a Glock 17 as far as velocity. Like you got a 940.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Yeah, that's why I'm smiling because you were talking about that, and I was doing 2-inch revolver 9mm testing back in the early 90s, and that was when I was talking about the J frame that I carried for many years. It was that model 940, and I had it loaded with Federal BPLE, which was the plus P plus 115 grain load, and I was perfectly fine with that combination.
and you were a chief. So like, do you see how? I hope this revolver is good because doesn't it make sense sometimes to authorize the same ammo that is issued ammo, at least in the bigger departments? Like it
Uh,
makes sense, right?
it it's a administrative convenience. I mean, the less different types of ammunition that you have to stock and make sure that you have available for training and obviously issue and everything else, and it's just one of those things that simplifies people's lives. When there's a wide variety of different firearms with different cartridges and everything else, if the department is supplying ammunition, which is wise because you never know what somebody might pick up. It might be somebody out there. In fact, I know there would be somebody out there who would go to the gun show and buy the cheapest reloads that they could find from somebody, and that's what they would use for a duty load. Somebody else would have something that was some sort of flamethrower
Super
cartridge.
exotic Ticondas.
So I mean that there again, it's one of those things from an administrative standpoint that it just standardizes everything, and the more you can standardize, the easier it is to keep to know what you're issuing and to make sure that everybody's going to have what they need.
So Diamondback, Lipsies, maybe you should like hook us up. And we have a couple friends that are very big into revolvers too. YouTube channels, Line Quest Fitness, Gun Sam. and some of you other guys in the comment section, like, it'd be nice if we got to check out some of this new stuff. So I think that kind of handles the revolver stuff. That's a lot for 2024. So I think that's exciting. And that's, I'm taking my channel a little bit that direction this year as far as accessories and all that. So I think it's a good thing, right? I think it's a good thing. And I'm big on being budget friendly options as well. Like Taurus has been doing better and better with the quality control. Hopefully keeps that way. I think since I heard the new CEO from Walther, budget stuff that is going to work, and some of the budget accessories that are good accessories, like a lot of people are in that, especially with inflation the way it's been and all that. Mm-hmm. So, good people should be able to defend themselves.
Speaking of which, I'm going to jump into SDS Imports. I've kind of become an SDS zombie over the last year or so. When I first got my first Tizosh handgun, it was my U.S. Army model, and that's been probably about 2.5 years ago. And I really liked it. I still have it. It's in the safe right here beside me. Great handgun, very reminiscent of what we were issued back when I was in the Marine Corps. And since then, I've had the good fortune to test quite a few different Tizosh handguns, both their PX9, some of their other 1911s, and they've just really impressed me pretty much across the board every time I've tried one. So I was interested to see in the SHOT Show what they were going to be coming out with for 2024, and they've got a boatload of new things. Beginning with, they're resurrecting the Inglis high power brand name. And they're coming out with an initial offering of 4 different P35 high power clones. There's going to be a basic, what would be like a military issue version. They've got one of them that has a really nice color case hardened finish. They've got one with, it's a silver finish, and I'm not sure if it's a stainless steel or again, if it's a stainless steel colored Cerakote or something like that. And there's a 4th one also. I can't remember exactly what the 4th one what its specifics are, but they're coming out with that. And of course, I'm a huge P35 fan, so I'm looking forward to those.
And I don't have one yet, so I definitely am interested in one. Like I've been wanting one. That lightweight from the other company is something I recommended, and I'm interested in as well. So I need to get in the P35 game eventually.
Yep, so everybody should have a P35. Every handgun fan should have a P35.
I know. There's only so many dollars on poor money that I make.
They've got that, or those coming out. They're also coming out, I think this is under their Military Armament Corporation brand, a H&K MP5 clone. So they debuted it at the SHOT Show. It looks cool. I'm hoping that we are going to get beyond this pistol brace nonsense, so people can use a brace if they want to with that, or if they want to SBR it, put a stock on there. It looks good. Obviously, I haven't handled one, haven't shot one. I hope to in the not too distant future, but they've got that coming out, and they're coming out with some double stack, basically 2011 style handguns for the. I think a lot of it is for the competitive shooting crowd, but they're also going to have some that are going to be a little bit more geared toward carry. So I was pretty excited for all of those to see them adding that to the SDS lineup. As I said, I have not shot any, not handled any, so I can only go with what I've seen so far, but I'm pretty excited of what I'm seeing coming out of SDS Imports.
Yeah. As far as the double stack, it's hard to make a 2011 style pistol that's budget, affordable, and reliable. So I hope they're successful. I'm interested. I think they're doing a commander length one as well. So there's a DS 9mm that I've emailed them. I haven't heard back yet. Everyone's still at SHOT. I hope I really hear back from Jared or someone at SDS because I'd love to check that double stack out. Mm-hmm. There's also. Didn't you just do the winter test with the Mac 1014 shotgun?
Yep.
So they got one with wood furniture that looks friggin' gorgeous that I'm begging them for, please. Because I haven't done a shotgun video in like 2.5 years. And buckshot size selection for home defense. I'd like to maybe do another one. I did it 11 yards last time. I wrote them like maybe I should do it 7 and 15 this time. And it'll be kind of a nice follow-up video if I could get one of those 1014s. I know it's not a new release, but there's Stingray Carry Commander 45. You did 9mm, and then versus your Springfield Armory. I can actually do the unboxing, the range, and all that, but I could also do the exact same video you did, but in God's caliber, the way it should be. So that's what the Stingray Carry in 45. I almost grabbed one from PSA with a steel frame. They had a smoking deal on one with a steel frame. And I didn't bite the bullet, and I should have probably, and just grabbed one because that deal's gone now, and they probably sold out. It was ridiculous. It was like $390 or something. But the Stingray Carry 45 and that double stack definitely interested me. Of course, I would like to have fun too. I'm a fun guy, right? And that clone, by the way, I think that it's actually made by the same company in Turkey that another importer was bringing in. So that's already vetted.
Like, yeah, that's could already, be. I don't know.
Yeah, that's already known to be reliable. The guy's really in the know based on the comments I read. I think, I'm not 100%, but based on handguards and this and that and little parts and stuff, this looks like this is already a vetted well over the last 2 years, budget yet reliable, functioning great thing. And they're just the new or different additional importer. I don't know. I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, SDS. I hope I'm not wrong. I'm sorry if I am. But I think it's already vetted and good to go. And yeah, based on what you talked about, those accessory things, that looks to be all going in the right way right now. That's perfectly in the right way. Hopefully it stays that way. It's not something I'm jumping into. And that's why I've only done one video with one of those bigger pistol thingies in the past. And I used a single point sling SAS style, like I'm some Brit like Jason Statham. Good movie, by the way. Beekeeper.
It's funny too, because I was thinking about this, and I guess I noticed this about myself last year. This year again, as I see a lot of the stuff that's really hyped coming out of SHOT Show, a lot of this sort of John Wick looking, video game looking, neon color stuff. I see that, and it's kind of yawn and, end the video and go on to the next thing. But then all of a sudden I'm like, what? A high power clone? Yeah, that's cool. Or a MP5, these firearms from back in the day that still, I guess, resonate with me. And something too that, and I want to say this to the viewers out there watching. Thank you, first off, for all of you who have watched the last 2 videos that I put out on my new Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum 27-9. Both of those videos are doing very, very well in terms of views. And it's funny because when I post a video, I can post a video with the newest, latest, greatest plastic fantastic handgun or whatever. It doesn't matter. Carbine, something plastic that does tricks like fold in half or come apart or whatever. And I'll get comments, and I'll get good comments, looks like it was pretty accurate. Boy, it was reliable, whatever, comments like that. But if I post something with a traditional Smith & Wesson revolver, or I trust something like a traditional, say, Winchester or Marlin lever action or something like that, what I get coming in from all the viewers are stories. And I absolutely love this. People will talk about, oh yeah, my uncle who was a state trooper back in 1965 carried a Model 27 and he taught me to shoot with it. Or, I bought one of those when I first started with the sheriff's department in, whatever year, and, it shot fantastically and this and that. I really enjoy that. And it's just funny. And I guess this is where I'm coming from with what I was saying about the MP5 and the high power clones and all that. Is there are those firearms from back in the day that captured our attention for one reason or another, or we have a connection with them or for one reason or another. And even though many years have gone by, those stories and those connections and all of that is still there, where we get a lot of the new stuff coming out and it's kind of like, okay, yeah, it's flashy, it's cool, it runs well, it's accurate, and now let's move on to the next thing. It's just amazing, that contrast. And it's one of the things that having the channel and posting the videos and reading all the comments and having the relationship that I do with all of you who watch the videos. And I look over here when I say that because this is where the chat log is, and I can see all your names over there.
Yeah, I
But
have a video shooting my friend who worked 50 years to the day in law enforcement. It's like 50 who passed away. I have a video. I think it was actually, I called it a 27. It was a 28, I think, model 28. And he carried that on duty. That was one of his many, many duty guns over a 50-year law enforcement career. And it was cool. And we were shooting silver tips, literally the silver tip I ballistic tested from that same box. And he's throwing them away. I'm like, hey man, use my range ammo. I pulled out some FMJ cheap stuff I had. I'm like, and now I got the box. And that's actually, I tested it coming up. So I got a story with that kind of too. But it's not only us, getting up there in age, guys. I don't know what the younger generation's called, guys. What is it? Not Gen Z, X, I don't know. The younger
there's some letters that they string together, and I don't even know what they mean.
They do that a lot nowadays. But whatever the younger generation seems to, and look at SHOT Show. That's what people are seeing. So there's people out there that they might be carrying a Micro 9, right? It's easy, but I think the younger generation is going, man, those wheel guns and lever guns are sure cool. I think there's a younger generation, and there's a channel I watch, younger dude. And he's all into the 2011s and whatever, but he's got a video, young people like 357s too. It's actually a phenomenal video he did. And I hope that's true. And I think that's true. I think retro's back. Even the MP5 kind of falls in there too. And even some of the carry handles are becoming cool again on those evil black things, that they're racist against. But I kind of do like that. And I hope and I think that's coming out. And honestly, I was soured a little bit to revolvers that one of my defensive displays, I was actually carrying a 7-shot Ruger back from the range, and 5 carjackers were just hopping out of their car. So I'm like, oh my God, but I was in a dangerous city. Now I'm not as much, as long as I don't go downtown or east side. So as long as I don't, I'm getting okay, and I'm starting to carry my Rossi RP63 because threat assessment, right? So as long as you're not in one of the major cities in America, and if you're watching this overseas, oh, America, so many murders and shootings, and it's third in the world. If you take out just 5 of the top 10 cities, and they're all, I don't want to get too, but they're all whatever bigger inner cities. If you take out just 5 of those, we go from 3rd to 91st out of 93 countries. Most people say there's 93. So that's a pretty big difference. So it's threat assessment. If you're not in a big major city, you're probably okay with a wheel gun or 2, Jim Cirillo, New York, the New York reload rig, if that gets announced, style, or a snubby and a fixed blade. You're probably okay. Carry a snubby and then a fixed blade on your other side to balance out your hips for good posture reasons, and you're probably good to go. Some Zeta 6 speed loaders are easy to throw in the pocket. K-Pack or K-Clips, they're not like a speed loader. They're soft, so that they're comfortable to throw. You can always put a speed strip in your watch pocket on your jeans. Yeah. So anyway, that covers kind of the revolver. There's a site I want to cover federal ammo. I don't know if you want to cover the 92. Bursa's got a couple interesting things. Maybe we can go there. You want to talk about Bursa?
Sure.
Okay. So I know you want to talk about the 1911s. Before we get to that, I want to mention, it looks like they got a new micro macro, that cool in-between size I was alluding to. Bursa, I don't even see you have a YouTube channel. Hook me up. And are you in America now? Do you got an actual American? Some people are saying, did they build a
do you know who's importing them now?
I don't know if they're importing now, because they're saying the 1911s are made in America. That's what people keep saying in videos. So I don't know. I tried when things were happening a few years ago. I was trying to get them to send me a TPR-9. And I shot my buddies in a video, which, by the way, held its own against much more expensive a 3 DAS, a full-size video I have that's pretty popular. It held its own versus much more expensive, much more bigger name established stuff, right? A great budget buy. I'm sure Argentinian police and others use it. But unfortunately, that has the safety that sweeps the wrong way. I mentioned in my video, which you maybe want to mention about that Beretta 92.
Yeah, that was one that I saw come out that I just can't wrap my mind around, really. For anyone that doesn't know, Beretta has come out with a new version of the 92. It is called the, where do I find it here? I know I have it written down.
GTS. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's the
it.
GTS.
It's selling MSRPing for about $1,000, and it's got a little bit of difference in the finish and one thing and another. But the big point that differs it from the others in the 92 line is it has a frame mounted safety that you push down to release and up for safe, which is the exact opposite of every other Beretta pistol out there currently made. Now, if we go way back into the 50s, they had frame mounted safeties, and I believe they were up for safe and down for off. But this is something that I think anybody that's used to the Beretta platform at this juncture is not going to be real crazy about, particularly at the price point where they're coming in. So I was extremely lukewarm to that one.
Yeah, so I mean, they've had the single action like frame mounted, and now they re-engineered it to be a decock up. So I think it just decocks, and that's what the TPR9, from my memory
Okay.
of the video.
I thought it was just a safety. Maybe it is a
It,
decock.
I think it does the same thing. They got a couple different models. So one's like a safety model, and now they got like this just different place decocker upsweep instead of a downsweep G, which people are used to. So it kind of really is confusing a bit. We'll get back to Bursa because I kind of went on a segue with Beretta. Beretta, I like some of these models. Certainly, they look really awesome. I would like to check out some of the models. They're made in Tennessee now, which is cool, right? But I don't like the square trigger guards. You had the 92Xs, you had beautiful 92 SBs before the 92F, which that's a whole segue in and of itself. Rounded trigger guards, and then they came out with the new Cheetah, the 84F instead of the 80 whatever B 84 BB. What happened to the nice rounded, beautiful Italian big booty lines that artists around the world know, like the ass end of a Ford GT? Like, give me the nice rounded trigger guard. That's what I have the problem with the new 80, the new whatever 80X 380, and these new models. Please go back to the rounded trigger guard. My God.
It's weird because it seems like with firearms companies, they go one of two ways. Either they try to be all things to all people and come up with every imaginable configuration of every product they make, or they're Glock. And they just keep building the same pistol over and over and over again. Maybe throw a
We're
different
not getting a
chambering
lot of
ring.
love from Smyrna, Georgia right now. Hey, some new Gen 5 2930s. I hit a Glock 9mm, right? But I mean, there's lightweight 45 10 millimeters. Okay, you guys are still, the Gen 5s are much better. Thank you. Please, no humps. Even PSA, and it looks like they're new models. We'll get a PSA in a minute. Like, don't put the damn finger groove hard and sharp in that way. It doesn't work for a lot of people. I don't know. Versus the. Go ahead.
Let me jump in with one thing quick because Steve Detweiler just mentioned this. In fact, I'll bring it up on the screen here so you can see it. But I saw these things announced from Springfield Armory, and it was this big elaborate thing about, you know, all the different configurations and hand fitting and finishes and this and that. And I'm sitting there watching this thing. I'm going, how much? How much? And finally, like the very end, and you know, MSRP of, you know, 1999 and change or something like that. But I thought, yep, that's exactly what I thought. They're going to come out with something like this. They're going to hype the heck out of it, and nobody's going to be able to afford the thing. So
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know.
I mean, I guess that's for their guys, and my Ronin and your Ronin have been great, right?
My Ronin, I had some issuhes with.
Did you? I never had a mel for anything, and it's like
That's good.
I'm like 300 rounds in before I needed cleaning. I think I'm over that now. Like, it does well even without an
Is yours a
actual
45?
disassembly. What's that?
Is yours a 40? Is yours a 45?
Yeah. I'm a
Okay.
45 commander, lightweight commander.
With mine, I started having functioning issues, and I think for whatever reason, on the 9mm Ronins, and I maybe all their 9mm commanders, I'm not sure. Springfield Armory puts a 9-pound recoil spring on there,
Supposed
and
to be
I
11.
started getting failures to feed, and I think that recoil spring was getting tired. And I also had some extractor issues. I had to tune the extractor, and I put I think 16-pound recoil spring on there. Once I did that and I worked on the extractor a little bit, it ran fine. But it was really odd that I started to have those problems, and I can't for the life of me figure out why they put such a light recoil spring on the
I
thing.
think from what I've read from Fusion and Bull, talking to like the head dudes there at those two big companies, I think it's supposed to be 11. And if you need better for like hollow point functioning, throw a 13 in. If I'm remembering right, that's what I was told about 9mm commanders. And you said
That
a
it might be,
16.
but if you look
Yeah,
at
you
the
told me.
Springfield, if you look at the Springfield website, and look for the parts that you can order, and you find their recoil spring for the 9mm Commander, it's a 9-pound spring.
That sounds way too light. That's too bad. Don't jinx me, man. My 45 has been doing great.
Well, good, and I would
That was the
imagine.
most expensive pocket, no discount, no special YouTube hookup. I think it was a birthday or Christmas present to myself. I think it was a Christmas present, and it was like it was seven. Actually, it was seven, like almost 750, even with a law enforcement discount. But I knew
Mhm.
they were probably going to discontinue soon, and I wanted it. That was the right like 30 ounces that I wanted, so I grabbed it. And the safety is perfect for me. That external
Mhm.
safety too.
Yeah, and I love the way they look. That's something I've always talked about with the Ronins, that two-tone finish that they have and those really nice wood grips. I love the way the thing looks, but yeah, I had some issues with mine.
Don't jinx me. Okay, 1911s. Get back to Bursa because that segues us back to 1911s. They're doing 1911s, and everyone keeps saying "Made in America." So I don't know if Bursa now has reestablished like a U.S. headquarters and an actual production facility, or what. If they're made in America now, friggin' awesome! Like let's support that. The people they're hiring, and I love that. Right. I hope they make a commander. I think all the ones I saw on video were full sizes, and they showed some nice chrome and stainless slides too, I believe. So that's pretty cool. And hopefully they're affordable. They should be. Um,
Yeah, I have not seen anything on those yet, so I really don't have any comment on them. That's why I wasn't wasn't chiming in there. But
okay.
yeah, just did hadn't seen anything about those.
So they also are coming out with a new micro macro in between size I talked about. I think like a 3.4 inch barrel, like kind of your Masada Slim size, which
Okay.
I dig. Based on replaying the video, I said, "Hey, that looks like a Shield Plus magazine." Now those are made by Magar, who's the best in the world in my opinion in magazine reliability, durability. In Italy, it certainly looked like it, and they said they're going to come with a 13 and 15. Well, guess what? Your Shield Plus is a 13 round magazine. I've never had any friggin' issues with any of them. So, giving Smith and Wesson and McGar props on that. And the 15 round magazine coming in the Equalizer also fits in the Shield Plus. I think they actually say that on Smith and Wesson's site now. Um, so if it's coming with Shield Plus magazines, that's like a huge part of the problem. If you're designing a new pistol, you want to know it already has a well-designed magazine, feed lip angle, all that. Like that's super important. So if that's true and it's a nice new budget micro 9 that has awesome magazine compatibility, cross compatibility, Bursa, yo, send me one, please. Thank you very much. So I hope that's the case. It looks like the case in the video that other Dan guy did you put out.
Um, Mentioning the Shield made me think of something else that came out. Smith and Wesson has come out with a new version of the SD pistol, and I liked the
Oh
old
boy.
one, and they're coming out with this new one now, and it's going to be around $350. Duty size pistol. That might be one particularly for law enforcement officers or armed security or anyone that has to provide their own firearm for work. That might be a good one to look at. Lifetime service contract. The one that my wife has, that's probably vintage 2010 or thereabouts, is drop dead reliable. It's never missed a beat as far as shooting it. And the only knock really was the trigger, which wasn't that bad, but a lot of people didn't care for it. And now they've supposedly redesigned the trigger to make it better. So I'm kind of hoping to get my hands on one of those one of these days and maybe do a three-way comparison going all the way back to the original Sigma series, because I have an original Sigma
Oh
back
jeez.
here in the safe behind me.
That would be interesting, and it's affordable and it looks good. And my friend who's actually my military officer friend brought me in to do a combative street jiu-jitsu seminar in Inogi catch wrestling, catch jitsu type seminar. He's now with the Phoebes, so he's carrying, I think, a Glock 17, 47, 45, whatever the heck it is, 49, probably a 47. I don't know. But he actually bought one because he liked the grip angle, the old one, before the new one came out. So, I mean, some people really like them, and I guess they're reliable. And so for a $300, street price option, I guess that's pretty good. So yeah, I'd watch your video if you do one on the new one. I like budget options that are reliable. You can recommend to people because that's how you get new shooters into
Yeah.
self-defense, carrying, protecting their family.
And I already put a bug in their ear at House of Pain Armament. So when they get one in, they're supposed to let me know.
There you go. Now, do they resell them at higher than retail value? Because they say used in HR Funk's video.
I don't know what they did. Now I'll tell you what I do. As a, I guess a thank you to the future buyer of those things. Before I send it back, I put a little letter in there with my picture on it, and it says, congratulations on your purchase of your new whatever it is. This was the firearm that I used in my video, dated blah 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 blah. Whatever.
Had I known that, I might have bought that Charter's Pitbull because I was interested in it.
And if nothing else, they can turn it over and draw a target on the back and shoot it out on the range. So I try to do that for anybody that eventually purchases that I used in a test video.
Well, let go of one of your SDS commanders you get in the 45 in the future, because that's like Commander 45 is where my 1911 love seems to want. We've covered most everything. Federal and Holosun really quick, and then PSA maybe to finish up. You got anything else you want to cover?
Real quick, I got three that I want to touch on real quick. One of them is Keltec, came out with a new sub 2000 that now they've made it with a rotating fore end on it. So it does away with having it a special mount and everything if you have an optic. So they came out with that. I think that's a good idea. Ruger American rifle has been redesigned, and this is another one where the jury's still out. I don't know if this is really just a cosmetic thing. They look nice. I don't know if it's going to function any better. I've got a Ruger American rifle over here around the corner. That's a pretty decent rifle for the price range that it comes in. And Colt now has a very similar rifle to the Ruger American. It's called the Colt CVX TAC Hunter. And if you look at that, it's coming in at $1,000. So it's coming in more expensive than the American Hunter rifle or the Ruger American line.
And
I don't know.
Colt,
that's another
so
one.
They're taking CZ's name engineering and throwing it out the window.
It doesn't look like a CZ rifle. Now it might be. CZ might be making it, but it doesn't follow the pattern of the CZ rifles that have been around for a while. But I just wanted to touch on those three, and then anything you have left as well.
Guys, Federal Ammunition. I've only seen one video, but it was with Chris Locke, who's answering my Q&As. I've already done one out. He says clear ballistics is only maybe top 70% correlation of real organic gel. You guys might want to actually know that out there. But he did a video, and I think they got a new 22 Magnum punch. Obviously, the 22 long rifle punch, make sure it gets deep enough to organs. 22 mag punch. He didn't mention in the video, but they got a new CCI 22 long rifle uppercut, which actually expands and gets pretty deep. That's interesting. You could actually maybe mix punch and uppercuts together, whatever. There's a 25 punch. 25 sucks energy-wise, ballistically. 25, even FMJ doesn't go friggin' deep enough. But they got a 25 punch. They got a 44 punch. They got a 32 deep. Now, that's pretty interesting to me. I got to look. I don't know if that's ACP or like H&R Magnum or long. It's probably ACP, but he's a really smart dude. Just emailing back and forth with him. Chris Locke, handgun product manager, CCI Federal Spear. 32 deep. Now, that's interesting to me, because if now all of a sudden your 32s are actually doing really what you need to do as best as can possibly be made in that caliber. I think you mentioned that 10.5 to like 11.25 kind of penetration depth. I had a video on saying FBI is wrong. That's probably good enough for civilians. I want 13 inches and huge expansion. But as long as you're getting 10 and a half, you're probably good as a civilian, right?
Mhm.
Probably. Um, and a later recoiling through 30 super, maybe they would listen to my old 30 super videos where I was like, you needed to market it not almost as good as 9 millimeter, but instead for newer shooters and females and disabled and elderly, somewhere in between 380 and 9 millimeters where 30 super should have held. So he said like something like 18% less recoil, a training round, a 90 grain 30 super round. I don't know if they can actually save 30 super. We mentioned that earlier about 327. So wanted to mention that. Federal, thank you so much for your bit of help. It really goes a long way keeping my channel going. Um, Holosun has a prototype thermal optic. Did you look at that at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I've got another Hollow Sun that I've been working with here, and I didn't pay too much attention to what they had that was
So
released.
it's totally seems to be like prototype beta testing slash proof of concept. I don't think it worked all the time at SHOT Show, but basically like EPS carry size. I think like a thermal imaging thing you mount to the rail in front. And now you got a red dot with literally your Predator thermal outline of dudes. I don't know if I need that on a pistol, but on a PCC or a lightweight home defense carbine, like I don't know if it had. Did they have something in that old Tom Selleck Blade Runner with a hydrojet bullets, something like that, heat seeking? I don't know, Predator
Yeah,
ish.
something about that sounds familiar.
It that probably is the future. I mean that seems really neat. I think it's still definitely in the proof of concept kind of phase. But thermal optic, that might be pretty cool. And then there's PSA stuff we should probably do. And I don't know if you want to go this long. I'm down with you going through some of the comments and throwing some of the better comments or questions up on the board.
Um, I've been kind of scanning them as we go, and a lot of this is just commentary on the things that we've said. Um, see if I see any questions in here.
Do you mind if I break into PSA stuff? Because they're like,
No, go
out
ahead. While I'm sifting up through here.
dude, PSA knocking it out of the ballpark. Plus, I'm kind of more big on them now because I listened to like a 2 hour interview with the CEO. They were just starting as like a little small online retail website, like buying stuff at cost, and then they turned into this huge behemoth that they are today, doing huge numbers and trying to make stuff more in common use, which they've done more of a job than probably anyone else. So I'm kind of big on PSA right now after seeing that. But they came out with, I don't know, friggin' like 20. Here's beta testing. Here's ideas. Here's these products we could potentially make. Please vote on it. Stuff. And there's stuff that, I mean, so many, but there's stuff that I think are definitely interesting. And feel free to hop in here, HR. The one I think is probably going to get voted on. I don't think either of us is very big on a 5.7, but it's getting bigger. The MP7 clone-ish
Mm.
X57 thingy, that's the one I'm guessing everyone's going to vote on. I don't know if that's happened yet. Let me know in the comments, guys. So that's fun. Um, Night and Day with Tom Cruise. I love that movie. I think it was hilarious, just like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Hit with MP dual wielding MP HK 5.7s. Well, this can make it affordable to the average dude. And like that's pretty cool, right? Like on a single point sling or one of those evil bee things on the end. It is fun, light recoil, especially for like getting your family in a shooting, teenagers, wives, whatever. It has its purpose. So that's cool. I think we're both in on their shotgun. Their shotgun looks really interesting.
Yeah, I saw their shotgun. In fact, I just watched that video this morning. And for anybody that doesn't know, it's essentially patterned after the Remington 870, so it's a familiar design for a lot of people, but it's going to be completely modular. So you buy the receiver, which would be the serialized part that you would have to get through an FFL. And then from that point, you can basically configure the shotgun the way you want. You can get the barrel length you want, you can get the magazine length you want, you can put whatever stock or fore end or what have you on there, and it's compatible with 870
Mhm.
accessories. So if you want to have a receiver mounted shell carrier or something like that. You could get one for an 870, and it should, at least based on what they said, work with this new PSA shotgun. So it's innovative idea to let somebody essentially build the shotgun they want to have, or they can buy one pre-made, the entire shotgun from PSA. So
And
again, I give them a credit for being innovative and for kind of going about things a little differently than most of the industry does it.
yeah, so some notes I put on that where like it has easy slide release that's kind of up high, so you could hit it with your trigger finger. It's got dual extractors, and it has a top tang safety, so it's kind of awesomely Mossbergy in that way of a top tang safety, which is really much better for like a home defense. Even if you got cruiser ready, you're ready to rack, and then hit that safety off. If what's going bump in your house, you're like, no, that's no teenager or drunk person coming in that's mine anymore, or whatever. Like top tank safety works a lot better. So I like that, and I'm really in on it.
That's where I'm too used to the 870 for years and years and years of using those things. My finger just naturally rests on that safety, and if I need to, I can disengage it. But I also know that lefties a lot of times don't have that same appreciation for it. So the top
Yeah, my
mounted
I got a push button on my shotgun as my home defense. If grabbing the pistol by the side of the bed isn't good enough, the pistol's going in my pants or underwear or whatever, because I use dual DLC clips for like that kind of purpose, and then I'm grabbing a shotty. That's how I roll. 45 tactical dagger, a big old 45, 16 rounds, probably going to be budget friendly. I can't say that's a bad home defense option with a weapon mounted light either, to have in grabbing distance as you roll out of bed, right? More exciting to me, and I'm going to guess that this will probably be their second thing they do, I'm hoping, is the 10 millimeter dagger carry. PSA, I hope you're listening. So this is more like Glock 29-ish size, it looks like. 13 round magazine. No nasty like a finger groove that's going to bump your fingers, though. Probably has a better undercut than those blocks that never originate anything. So I'm interested in that. Like, I'm not in a 10 millimeter yet, but I'm interested in that. But I'd be even more interested in it if PSA offered a 40 slide and said, this is not for carry, but you can slap a 40 slide on it and shoot 40. Now, you probably could anyway, but eventually extractors break. Glocks tend to be better with that in the Glock 29s, right? But eventually you can cause extractor issues. So, but PSA is the company that you can just buy cheap uppers and lowers and not pay the tax man. So I would like a 40 slide so I can shoot cheap 40 on it, and yet know that if I ever move northwest or something, I can throw on a 10 millimeter slide. So I don't know what you think about a budget 10 millimeter carry option that has good capacity.
I have no problem with it. It strikes me as kind of a dichotomy, because you have a budget 10 millimeter handgun, but 10 millimeter is not budget ammunition. So,
That's why I'm recommending they think about a 40 slide.
um, and they could maybe even get away with a conversion kit for that, where it's just a barrel and maybe a recoil spring chambered or set up for the 40. I don't know if it would run 40 out of the magazines, but if it did, that would be a lesser expensive way to go about it than the entire upper.
Yeah, I'm sure it would anyway, but you don't want to tell people to carry or use that for self-defense. So you got to kind of play that fine line. It probably is fine out of the box running 40, quite frankly, if they build it. But eventually you will, over thousands of rounds, you'll probably eventually, on a Glock, people have done it. You're not as worried about it. In a 1911, yeah, you can get away with 100 rounds. I don't know if you can get away with 2,000 now, like on a 1911 extractor. So that's something there. And I think they could easily make the carry in the 45 version too, which I'd be more interested in, especially if it does take, I mean, they're thick as fuck, the Glock mag 45 mags, because the plastic. So I don't know if they're going to do Glock size or thinner size to make the grip thinner. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
I don't
if
know
they
either.
do a 29, 30-ish cheap, no finger groove thing, I'm interested. Yeah.
All right. Well, Dan, we've been at this now for about an hour and 20 minutes. So I think I'm going to start looking at wrapping things up. If you would
Yep.
do me a favor, Unless, do you have anything? I don't want to cut you off. Any last thing you want to throw out?
I want to
Everybody?
thank some of the people that have helped me real fast. Targets Online, Excess Sights, Tolster Holsters. Use my discount code Federal. I got stuff coming in from Zeta 6. Premium gun grips I just did a video on, like for $40. Checkered rosewood grips. Wow, that's awesome. Tactical is hopefully sending me some holsters. Harry's holsters, I've done a couple before, but he does great videos on all the different snub options that are out there. A holster, awesome pocket holsters, guys. I really, especially one for a snubby, is really innovative. CYA, I think they're sending me something. I got some really interesting revolver grips that are getting finalized that are coming, and I'm going to do old school undercover detective style versus new school. So I wanted to throw those guys a bone. I don't know. You've used Targets Online too.
I do.
So
Great company, great company. And one of the ways to support both of our channels is to purchase targets from Targets Online. I do have a question that just came in for you, Dan. I want to throw this up. Came from Steve Detweiler asking about SDI.
do I know about SDI?
And I believe that's Sonoran Desert.
Sonoran Desert Institute?
Yeah.
I know that those guys that run around in the woods and tell you how to climb up hills, they do some grand thummy type things. I know they plug them all the time. Always my channel is supported by them because apparently they're a very good sponsor. Unfortunately, I don't. They're online. Do they actually have it in-house in Arizona? I'm thinking that for some reason.
I'm not entirely sure where they're located. I know, I've seen the promos for them on a lot of different channels, but I've never had any association with them. I don't dislike them or anything like that. I just don't really know anything about them.
I'm guessing it's a good thing. I know me, I'm in a fairly decently sized city outskirts right now. I have to drive to get, like, I have one really good gunsmith that did my Rossi. My new one might be coming from, I might have another guy do it. And there's 3 that work at a place, but there's, out of all the gun stores in the area, there's really an in-house guy who I plugged in the Rossi video. And then there's like a local guy that got plugged in a Lucky Gunner video, actually, who I also use. One of the guys there I'm very friendly with. But out of all in the area, so that's like 4 gunsmiths at 2 different, like one store and one in-house out of the whole area that I know of. So there's not a lot of gunsmiths out there. So if that's something you're interested in, I would give SDI a shot, quite frankly. I'm interested. I love it, but I got fat, lupusy, damaged palms and 25 million different finger breaks from jiu-jitsu and catch wrestling and MMA. I can't, like, I have trouble just changing the grips. So I can't do it. I wish I could, because that would probably be my career if I could at this age of my life. But I would look into it, man.
All right, Dan. Well, like I started to say a minute ago, I'm going to just click you out of the room, but don't go away. Just hang around here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. So
Thanks for having me, HR Funk. I also want to thank, before you go, thank you for Mel Gibson for coming by as well. We appreciate what you're doing. And Bruce Willis as well. I know things have been rough on you lately. But I want to thank those guys for coming in and making things, always very Christmassy around my house any time of year.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
And that's going to do it for our wrap up, or our, analysis of all the things that were introduced during the SHOT Show. Thanks to all of you who were watching. I know at the high water mark I watched up here was about 45 or so people were in here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, thanks to all of my channel members for the contribution you make to the channel. You guys, especially if you saw my community post from yesterday, you know that this is one of those times where YouTube is demonetizing everything that goes up. So I could not appreciate the contribution all of you make any more than I do. Thank you. To all of you who are watching the live stream, who watch the videos, who comment, all the interaction we have, thanks to all of you. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm going to be doing another live stream soon in the future, and I hope you can all make it back for that one. Until then, as always, everyone, good shooting, and bye-bye for now.